Welcome to the STR Data Lab.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the STR Data Lab. I'm Jamie Lane, Chief Economist at AirDNA, and I'm joined today by a wonderful guest, Madison Rifkin, CEO and founder of Mount. Madi, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jamie. It's good to be here.
So you've been a guest I've been really looking forward to having on the podcast, just because I feel like you guys at Mount just do things differently and think about the industry differently. And it kind of reminds me about how AirDNA was when it first started, like 10 years ago, like coming in, growing industry, like let's do things a little bit different. And now you guys are the up and comers, and AirDNA is, 10 years old now. So really excited to dive into and sort of what makes you guys different in the way that you're marketing and sort of positioning Mount to the world. But maybe we could start with just what is Mount?
Yes, it's a good question. So I like to say Mount is a three-sided marketplace. We bring together hosts and property managers with their guests, as well as the local businesses. We're very much of the belief that really the reason why people come and stay at a short-term rental is not the property itself. Well, that helps. They're really coming for a reason. And it's whatever makes that market special, whether that be a hot air balloon tour put on by a retired airline pilot, a specific food tour diving into like the chocolate background of that specific market or industry. And so, if you don't have all three of those markets playing together, then really what are you doing? Like we believe that is like the tourism travel market. It's not just the short-term rental industry.
No, that's awesome. And how did you get into vacation rental, short-term rental? How'd you get into this space?
Definitely by accident, but it was a happy accident. I like being here. Basically, when I started Mount, we were, honestly, for some of the OGs listening to this call, you might remember this, but we used to offer scooter rentals at short-term rental properties. That's how we started. Because I came from that world. I had been working with a lot of the scooter companies. And I was like, what happens if you put these at STRs? Something good, magical probably happens. I was correct until I got a call on my phone on my birthday being like, oh, I rode the scooter drunk, help me. And I'm like, I don't know what to do here. Quickly shut that business down. But that is how I got into the industry, was because of all that.
I feel like the scooter craze is going to be something that everyone looks back on in 10 years being like, well, what was that period where you could, like, every scooter company was competing against each other and like they were everywhere. And do you still keep track of what's going on in that industry, like with birds and limes and all that?
A little. I would say it was an industry that went through all cycles of an industry, like within 5 years. So it went from being a baby to having all these startups in it, to consolidation, to then having a few go public, having those pretty much fail. And now it's more of a dying market. And I guess, or it's just stabilized and it's old now. But yeah, I would say one that had millions and billions of dollars dumped into it by the VCs. And then as it turned out, everyone's hypothesis was wrong. You don't need to take a scooter 5 minutes to get to work. People are still going to take the bike system or walk or an Uber or a car. So
yeah. So I want to get into what makes Mount special. But first, I wanted to maybe get into a bit about like why, like what is the benefit that vacation rental managers or hosts would have by working with Mount? Like, what's the sort of sales pitch on bringing Mount into sort of your tech stack or offering for guests?
yeah, so I'm glad you asked this question, because as of late, you will actually not be bringing Mount into your tech stack. It will just work with your existing tech stack. So there's nothing you have to change, nothing you have to do. You simply just need to opt in. But what it does is we go out and curate a list of the top hidden gems in your market. So a hidden gem could be anything from a restaurant doing something really special to someone offering a really incredible tour, like really whatever you are looking for as a guest. You get to now bring in those hidden gems into your existing guest-facing guidebook or boarding pass or whatever that may be. And now your guests can see all these amazing recommendations. They are hidden gems, so we do actually have that brand. It's similar to like a Michelin star brand on a restaurant. We actually brand the local businesses with a Mount Hidden Gem title. So not everyone gets that. It's very hard to get it. We come out with it, every year. And so you'd get to work with those specific businesses. And then essentially by advertising them to your guests, that's kind of the word we use, but really you're just offering them to your guests, you get a piece of the pie. So you not only get to give these amazing vetted recommendations to your guests, but you also get a little revenue from it as well.
That's great. How do you go about finding these hidden gems? I imagine that's something that's like, and with the hundreds of thousands of cities around the world, like is pretty difficult to actually curate something like that in every city.
Yeah, so definitely we're not in every city. That was an issue we had, kind of a legacy issue. We grew too fast when we were a startup and lost control of the supply. And so we have very much pulled it back in recent months, took a hard look at how we vet all of this stuff, and it has to go through two systems. So the first, we launched a consumer-facing app, and it purely is for anyone that's a traveler to download, and they can discover hidden gems and they can nominate hidden gems. So let's say you're traveling to a place Mount doesn't exist, or you just found something that isn't in the system yet. You could actually nominate it and tell us why you think it should be a hidden gem, what makes it special from your perspective, upload some content because we are a content first company. And then it's in our system. So it goes through a review process internally. We'll kind of go vet it, talk to the business owners, make sure it is a true hidden gem. And then if it is, they will make that list. They'll get a special badge they can put in their storefronts, and then they get into the Airbnb side of things and can be distributed through your property now.
That's awesome. So what is that sort of vetting process look like? Is it something where if I'm like too popular as I'm in what I offer that I can't be a hidden gem? Or like, I assume like a tour of the Eiffel Tower isn't going to be able to get a hidden gem status, but what sort
No.
of that continuation look like?
So I would say we have three core pillars at Mount. We like to travel sustainably, ethically, and responsibly. So we like to say, we travel off the beaten path. We are not looking to go see the Eiffel Tower, but instead probably looking for the best bakery that has the best chocolate croissant you could possibly find. And in order to do that, you would traditionally ask a local, right? That's kind of what we're trying to recreate. So you're exactly correct. Like, yes, you might travel for the first time to Paris and go see the Eiffel Tower just because that is like a bucket list item. But once you're done doing that, or maybe you're back a second time, what are you going to do? That's Mount. We want to fill those holes. So that's what you're going to see. Another good example, because we just went through this process in New Orleans, is Cafe de Monde, the place you get the beignets. That's
Yeah.
not a hidden gem, partly because I think it's very popular, but it's very subjective. Like I went there and I was like, oh, overrated, not what I'm looking for. So that's kind of the line we tell. We don't publicize like the criteria. It's not a specific, you check these boxes, you're a hidden gem. It's very much community oriented, similar to the Michelin star, but that's kind of what you can expect.
Yeah. So by curating this list of hidden gems, like as a host, like I want to create an awesome guidebook for my guests. And being able to integrate Mount into that, is that essentially like you're giving me one of the best guidebooks possible that I can offer my guests, and where I don't necessarily have to go out and curate it myself. And then if I want something else added to it, then I sort of either reach out to you, or have the business sort of reach out to you to get added to it. Is that how it works?
Exactly. Yeah, they could become nominated. But that way, I think, in the old way of Mount, we actually did have hosts curate their own and put their own stuff in. And we just realized, that, well, some were really good at it because they are truly locals. Others are running a property management business. They might not be local to the area. Like there's just a lot of other stuff going on. And so if we can be the stamp of approval that is like, yes, this is good, this is not good, and just make sure that none of the non-good stuff is getting in, it just benefits pretty much everyone in the involved ecosystem.
Yeah. So can you give me a sense of like what guest usage looks like? Like, is it like one out of every two guests is like using or booking something through it? Is it significantly less than that, more than that? Like if you're a host, like what sort of earnings could you expect coming out of working with Mount?
So that's the other thing we've done is we have not tied it directly to bookings. So we actually, if you dive more into the local business side of things, the big issue that they're having right now is, and it's actually very similar to the short-term rental space, they want more direct bookings. So they don't want the OTAs to take, and in that space, it's like 35-40% commission. Like it's a lot that the OTAs are taking. And so we just flipped the entire model on its head. As you said, we like to do things differently at Mount. So it's exactly what we've done. we tie the earnings a host can get to how many views they get in their guidebook. That way it's incentivized for them to actually implement their tech stack in a way the guest wants to use it. They drive the guest to look at it. And then from there, it's up to the local business to convert them into a booking, because that was the issue. And ask anyone in this industry in the experience space, and hopefully they'd be transparent in telling you this. Bookings are incredibly hard to generate for experiences when you're not directly communicating to the guest and when it's not the host's main priority. They don't know how to sell experiences. So we've taken all that onus out, and basically what your guest will see, and that's why we call it an advertisement, is they'll see the local business hidden gem. They'll see the content, what makes it special. But then if they click on it, it's not going to say click to book. It's going to say, learn more or check availability. And it'll be taken to the actual website of that local business. And now it's in their funnel, because their funnel is set up to convert you on their website. That way you don't have to build the funnel into your guidebook. So that's what we've done. So we'll pay you based on number of guests that come through your guidebook.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. So, and it's very public that Airbnb is looking to relaunch experiences coming up in probably May 2025 as part of their summer release. How have you sort of thought about the differentiation between what Mount offers with their sort of hidden gems and what Airbnb's tried to do with their experience product?
Oh, yeah, it's a good one. I would say the people who are more concerned about what Airbnb is going to do are the companies like Get Your Guide, Viator, and it's simply because they all have the same supply. So that's why Airbnb experiences actually failed the first time around, or there were a lot of reasons. This is one of them. They didn't build any connectivity to, and just for simplicity purposes, I'll call it a PMS, because a local business actually has an operating system like that. It's called ResTech in their space, but it is what a PMS does for a host. So Airbnb didn't build any connections to those software companies. And so if I was a local business and I wanted to list on Airbnb experiences, I actually had to manually go create my listing, and then I'd manually have to keep my calendar updated on Airbnb experiences. And so pretty much no one did that. No professionalized tour operator did that, because they're like, I simply don't have time. Like, I need a channel manager on Airbnb. You're not letting me do any of that. And Airbnb was very upfront. They're like, we don't want you to do that. So Airbnb attracted all of these tour operators, quote unquote tour operators, that had never done it before, that were only on Airbnb experiences, and they were very unprofessionalized. And so you could have gotten a tour, and this actually happened to me. I booked an Airbnb experience in Portugal to go on a bike riding tour because I was by myself. I'm like, might as well just go explore. And I thought that was a good way to do it, because it said it was bike around with a local, like he was promoting himself as a local of the area. Well, it turns out he had just moved there like 3 months ago. He actually was hurt, so he couldn't even ride his bike. And I also thought I was getting murdered, because he showed up in a van and just pulled out these rusty old bikes. And I'm like, what's going on? And I was alone and a female. So I was like, okay, all the signs are adding up here. So that would be why Airbnb experiences failed. But the whole dirty secret of the industry is that 30% of all local businesses are online. And that's what you'll find on these OTAs, is those ones. And they're typically bigger companies that have set themselves up because they know tourists come there. They want to capture all the dollars. So it's just I'd say the industry is like 10 years behind the short-term rental industry in terms of that. So sorry, long-winded way of saying I'm not concerned about Airbnb experiences, because they have a lot to tackle on that front, fighting those large companies. And there's no one coming in and actually telling you what's good, what's not good, what's a tourist trap, what's not a tourist trap. It's what TripAdvisor used to do, but then they lost control of that kind of stamp of approval, because their whole metric is driven by reviews. That's what they need and want. And so if you're just trying to get as many reviews as possible, you don't care if they're good or bad or if they're accurate. You just are pushing people to review. And so it goes against the whole company.
Yeah. So maybe flip that a bit and you said the ones that are doing well in or the ones that are actually professionalized in the experience space, or like a Get Your Guide or Viator. And I was just in Colombia with my wife, and we booked a mountain bike tour through, I think it was Get Your Guide, which ended up being a great experience. It was a local sort of doing it. They had multiple channels they were distributing through. Is that sort of like a extreme curated version of what you guys are trying to do, and do you even not consider them a competitor?
Yes and no. I would say, so Get Your Guide is basically Airbnb, but for experiences. So it is an OTA. They just they have teams trying to get people to sign up to list. I would say in the world of brands, it would be either Viator, like Get Your Guide started in Europe. Viator started semi in Australia, but was bought. So it's a US kind of company now. And that was where their footholds are. They now compete with each other and they're trying to get as many listings as possible to grow. And so I would say the supply is definitely going to be a hit or a miss, similar to what you find on Airbnb. It's a hit or a miss because they're just trying to get as many listings as possible. You will find good ones. And then I think the brand of Viator, I mean, personally, I don't really want to book on Viator because their brand is just not something I resonate with. Like, it isn't really a brand for travelers. Get Your Guide does a little better, but I don't think they quite get it either. And so I do think there's an opportunity to come in as Mount, as this, like what we're trying to be is the travel brand for the Gen Z generation. There is not that brand that exists yet. And so we're very intentional with like the way we vet with sustainability practices, off the beaten path, hidden gems. Like that's really what you can find. We're not going to go for that other big stuff. So I think that's the differentiator between us and Get Your Guide. And then, I think it comes down to brand, and there's a reason why Get Your Guide isn't profitable.
So maybe let's talk about then like how you guys are building your brand. Because I feel like you're coming in about it a bit differently. And my sort of first interaction with your marketing, I think it was around this time last year with it was on TikTok, and it had to do with your social media manager and how many times, like, could you just explain like what that was and sort of what came out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So our marketing strategy is all organic. So we don't pay for our marketing. And it is all social media driven because we're a Gen Z company. We're like, everyone is on TikTok, everyone's on Instagram. Might as well do the same thing. So yeah, that video Jamie's talking about was kind of how we kicked everything off. And it was just Casey and I got on a Zoom, and Casey runs our social media. We actually went to college together, so we get pretty creative and are pretty close. But yeah, I was just telling her and I didn't know she was recording this, but turns out she was, because she was going to turn it into a TikTok. She thought she was getting fired. And I, meanwhile, was telling her, no, you're not getting a bonus this year, traditionally. Let's turn your bonus into something that you can actually do on TikTok, which is like, if people like this video or they follow Mount because they're travel lovers, I'll give you $5 for every follower you get and $1 for every, it was to comment a plane emoji. So every plane you get. And I was like, no shot, this is going viral. She also was laughing because she's like, I think I'm going to get like $100 from this, because our videos in the past hadn't been doing well.
Yeah.
And that video went viral. It hit like 2-3 million people. I don't remember at this point, but yeah, she was supposed to be paid over $1 million, I think. And because we were friends, we got 170,000 followers from that one video. It was insane.
Wow.
Obviously, we worked some deal out behind the scenes where it wasn't all cash. I paid her in equity and other things because she didn't want to bankrupt the company. But we both laughed because we're like, that started this whole crazy thing. And now, we've launched our content army. We do a lot of social media. We help other brands with their social media now just because we got really good at it. And so it's just a big part of who we are.
Yeah. So I feel that was one of those social media moments that like transcended our industry, right? Where it was like, that random people would be talking about this company that did this thing that was awesome. Is that now part of like your strategy of like, how can we create more things that are going to go viral in that way? Or is that like, we did it once and like, and we're probably not going to get something else that gets 2 or 3 million views?
Oh no, we've gotten a ton of videos that reach that level of virality. Not that level of engagement though. That's like pretty unheard of, to have a video that drives 170,000 followers. Like that's just crazy. We learned a lot though. And it goes into strategy of social media, where it's like, do you want a video that goes viral? And that's great. And it's also a vanity metric, and you can post that on LinkedIn and people are like, holy shit, that's amazing. Like we had a video go viral last week. Casey posted it and it got, I think just under 3 million views on Instagram, actually. So it wasn't even TikTok. And the video went viral, but it wasn't specifically about Mount. It was actually just a funny like video. We were on Zoom and she showed up with a background of a toilet bathroom and she thought it was hilarious. So she posted it. And like, while the virality of that video was good, it didn't really have a massive impact on the actual business, because again, those were just people that thought that was funny office humor. It wasn't really travelers or hosts or anything. So you do have to balance that. But with, then we had a video go viral that actually was specifically targeted to hosts. And I think we got like 500 signups from that video. So that has tangible results. And I think it just comes down to strategy. Like having a mix of both is fantastic, because you have the big videos that hit millions, and then you have the really targeted videos that have a big impact on the revenue and the customers. So I think both is good.
Yeah. A mix of things that sort of drive engagement with your brand and other things that just sort of help you sort of broadly reach more people and get more followers, and keep doing both of those over time. And you're going to sort of hit a strategy that maybe actually starts converting people through to being customers with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So at AirDNA, we've got someone that runs our social, and there's terms that he uses that confuse me sometime. So, and I feel like you're the expert to sort of ask this for, so I'm just going to ask it. What's the difference between a creator and an influencer?
Oh, such a good question. I would say nowadays people use those terms very interchangeably. But for me, I think it comes down to two things. An influencer, that term is definitely more established. Like you could have been an Instagram influencer like 10 years ago, probably. That would probably be the furthest back you would go. Influencer typically is someone who has their own following, pretty large in numbers. Like it could be anywhere from 10,000 up to like a few million. And then you get into the terms like micro influencer, macro influencer. And they typically, if you want to work with an influencer, they charge you a lot of money. It's expensive. And it's basically for one post on their feed where they're promoting your brand. In the past, before TikTok, that strategy worked really well. And you could have chose any influencer, it didn't matter. And that's when you would go for like a Kardashian or something like that, right? And you like want someone. Nowadays, because of TikTok and things have gotten really authentic with social media, if you choose the wrong influencer and their brand doesn't align with your brand and it just looks like they're selling out and they're doing it for the money, it's going to look bad on them and their following's going to hate them. And it's going to look bad on your brand, because it's like, okay, why on earth did you just pay them to do that? So you have to be really careful. Now, a creator is someone that is just really good at creating content. And they could be an influencer and have a following, but they also couldn't. And it doesn't matter. And what they're doing is they're creating content for you as a brand or as an individual that you're going to post. So for AirDNA, you could actually probably find a creator that is a host, and they would be making content talking about their perspective as a host using AirDNA. So in essence, they are promoting you, but it doesn't look like an ad whatsoever. And you don't have to say it's an ad, because it's not. It's just content.
Yeah. So if I was a host looking to have someone at my property to promote it, would it be maybe a strategy of either I want to get a creator to come in and maybe create content that I could then be posting on my channel out about my property, or separately, I could hire an influencer to create content that they would post out for their audience of that they might want to come stay at my property. Like, is that how to think about it?
That's exactly how to think about it. And to contextualize that, we had a host pay an influencer, and there's definitely different ways to choose an influencer, but this property was a drive-to destination. So he needed someone with a local following. I think they had like 800,000 followers. So fair amount. And they went purely on an influencer basis, made one post. I want to say the post was, and this is a ballpark, but it was $8,000 to $10,000 that the host had to pay that influencer. But then they put in a booking code, because they actually set up the funnel properly. And they were able to tell from that booking code that one influencer from that one post drove $40,000 worth of direct bookings. And so that is like, yeah, that works. That at a 3-4x ROI, like that's pretty good.
Yeah. No, and in general, like as you've worked with sort of creators or influencers, like, and is that a viable path for most to generate bookings at their property?
I would say absolutely, but it's definitely like not just, oh, I'm going to hire an influencer and this is going to work. Like there's strategy involved. So first of all, you need a very good looking book direct website. And if you don't have that, like good luck. So get that. And I also think consumers are really savvy. So if your book direct website doesn't work, or it's like called a book, or it looks super sketchy, people are not going to trust you. So you need that. And then you also need to be set up on social media, because that is kind of how you get double verified in the world of direct bookings as a guest perspective. Is like, you don't have the brand Airbnb behind you anymore, right? And that is an element of trust for guests. So they're going to look you up on your book direct website. They're also going to look you up on social media. And so if you have a really sketchy looking social media, or you don't have social media, that's not going to be a good conversion funnel. So that's kind of why you might need to work with a creator first, is like, let's set up your account. Let's get you some reels that are starting to go viral, or they're getting views, you're getting engagement, you have more than 200 followers. And then it might be time to bring in an influencer. But you can also bring in an influencer to help you grow your following. It doesn't just have to be to get direct bookings. Maybe you're just starting out and you want that influencer because you also want to get their following to be your following. And that's just a different way of working with an influencer, but it is helpful.
So that could be maybe a difference on whether or not you're sharing a booking page or whether you're having them just share your social media account for your property or your
Yeah.
property management business.
Or maybe you're doing like a giveaway together, and a piece of the giveaway is they have to follow you too. So that actually helps a lot too.
Okay. Speaking of giveaways, what was this giveaway you did with Taylor Swift tickets?
Yeah, another crazy one of my marketing schemes. Yeah, Mount bought 2 tickets to the Taylor Swift event in our concert in New Orleans, and we ended up doing a giveaway. We partnered with B&B Finder, actually. So you not only got tickets to the concert, but you got a place to stay. So they donated property. And then for the giveaway, the way you entered was you had to like interact with us on TikTok and Instagram for both accounts. You had to create your own video as to why you wanted to win the tickets. And then the last piece of the puzzle, which helped get our app off the ground, was you had to nominate a hidden gem. And that ended up going viral. We reached, hundreds of thousands of people with that giveaway, which was awesome. And then in the end, it really did not cost way less than attending a conference. I'll tell you that. And the impact was like 10x higher.
So roughly how many people nominated a hidden gem because of that?
We got 25,000 or 2,500 nominations.
Wow.
Yeah, which was good because, we weren't going for quantity there. Like we wanted really good ones. So I actually put in the nomination form. I was like, if you do not spend like more than 5 minutes on this, if you don't put thoughtful and time and energy into it, like we're not counting it as an entry. So it actually made people really think about what they were nominating and why, which was good.
I bet that was a great way to find new hidden gems in a way. Seemed like that checked a lot of boxes in terms of like the type of engagement you want to get by giving something away.
Oh, absolutely. And I would say too, this is the magical thing about TikTok that I don't think a lot of people realize. TikTok specifically is so good at finding your community and putting you there that when we did this giveaway, the community we ended up tapping into wasn't just people that love Taylor Swift, but it was the Swifties that love to travel. And so they were all there and all part of the giveaway because of the travel aspect, not just the Taylor, which really helped us tap into like that sub community. And now and Swifties are notoriously known for like grabbing onto a brand and loving it. Like they're just cult followers like that. And that's why they're amazing. And so we now have like 30,000 Swifties that love Mount because of what we did. So that was also really helpful. And another reason why social media is amazing, because if one video and you can tap into the right community of people, and now you're building in a community as opposed to just marketing to the masses.
Yeah. So if we sort of put that as a great example of how a brand can work with a giveaway and sort of create content around it, do you have any examples of how you've seen like a host or property manager create content like that? That's sort of maybe they're giving away a property, or a few nights at a property or something like that.
They're giving away a stay.
Yeah.
Oh, all the time. And it really is once the host Instagram account is set up. And I would say that's mostly on Instagram for hosts. It's not so much TikTok, just because TikTok is so community oriented. But working with an influencer on TikTok, that's not a bad thing because it's inspiration and travelers look there all the time. But yeah, really successful. Like I'd say probably they would be giving away at least a 2-night stay in the minimum, but more like 3 nights average, just because it takes some time for you to get there and travel there. And then, if you can bring in more partners to the giveaway, all the better. So I've seen hosts partner with like an airline, and now the flights are comped. And so then it makes the giveaway even more enticing. So lots of things you can do. You can get really creative on social media. And the way you find these brand partners is just find their social media manager on LinkedIn. And they're always open to like doing crazy stuff like this. So yeah.
No, that's fun. So you mentioned sort of finding the social media managers like on LinkedIn. You mentioned that you really need a social media account or set of accounts before you sort of get going. Is there anything else on like that sort of initial checklist of like what I need to do to sort of just think about getting started with doing content creation?
I would say the other thing you absolutely need, and it just makes your life easier in the future, is a content archive. So just a place either in Google Drive, Dropbox, wherever, that has just really high quality, good content that you can keep pulling from time and time again to create your reels. And I would say if you are going to be starting an Instagram or TikTok account, don't even think about photos because it's not going to matter. Like static posts just do not work these days. So you need to be posting short format video, anywhere from like 15 to 30 seconds to 60 seconds. You don't need longer than 60 seconds. And even if you are going to go the photo route, there's a company or a handle on Instagram that's doing this really well right now. Stay Field Trip USA. Check out some of their reels because they actually have edited photos together, but it's in video format. So you're not just like staring at a photo. Like it looks really nice. So if you are looking for examples, that's one of them. But a content archive, the way you can get that, if you feel confident and you believe in yourself, go get the content yourself. I would probably not go for that path. But the way you would get it is work with a content creator. Like I'm happy to connect. Like that's actually something we do is we have 25 vetted creators. It's our content army who can come do content for a few days, give you an archive, get you up and running with some reels. Like we're happy to do that. Or just get connected to someone that can create you this content archive. And then if you feel comfortable editing is not hard. I think there's a myth out there that it's like really hard to get these videos out there. There's a platform or it's an app called CapCut. They have all the templates already there. You just need to click which clips you want and it'll do it for you. Then you have your video, you choose some trending music on TikTok and Instagram, put a caption in there, you're good to go. Like editing is not hard. It's actually shooting the content that's the hard piece. So I'd say that's the other piece you need is to get started as a content archive. And then you should be good. Like example, if you want to look at an Instagram handle, it's something along the lines of like Hidden Gems Fred, and it's Hidden Gems in Fredericksburg. It's our handle. So we started that account for Fredericksburg in Texas, highlights the best hidden gems. We went on a 2-day content creation trip. So we were just shooting content. We went everywhere we possibly could. And then for the last 4 or 5 months, have just been posting using that content. We didn't go back and shoot anymore. And we've been getting out reels pretty consistently. And a fair amount of them have gone viral. So a good example of how you just need to get a little base content and you can edit it into whatever you want. You can reuse it too. Like you'll see reels on there that reuse pieces of content. And that's not bad.
And is that something, so if I'm a host working with Mount and I want to start promoting the hidden gems in my market, that there's some sort of way to work with Mount to get some of that content that you can be cross-promoting?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So if you are using Mount for the hidden gem aspect, you basically all you need to do is like send us an email and let us know that you have the hidden gems active. You're ready to start going content wise. And we can send you some content of the hidden gems you can post or work with you to get your own organic content, like whatever you really need. But yeah, we like to just, everyone that is working with us, it makes Mount look better anyways. So if you guys can be promoting that stuff on your Instagram page, all the better. We like to say that for hosts on Instagram, like we get this question all the time. They're like, okay, but what do I make content about? And it is not the stock photos. It's not just showing an empty bedroom. Like it really is showing people in the property, but also showing those people doing things off property in the market. Because that's really why people scroll, is they're looking for inspiration. And so if they see this amazing snowshoeing experience in Vail, Colorado, for example, and they're like, oh my God, I want to do that. And then they see it's your piece of content. So now they have a place to stay too. They just got their whole trip planned in one video, and it's because of you. So it's going to make you look a lot better.
Oh, that's awesome. And I assume if you're getting paid based on views and clicks, like
it's going to help with that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Comes full circle.
So I know you guys did this sort of and what is it, creator retreat, where you got all these creators together. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yes. So I would say one of the struggles as a host is that you probably get a lot of Instagram DMs from quote unquote creators, but it's in reality, it's a lot of people asking for free stuff because they think they can. And then mixed in there, some really great creators, and you're not going to tell the difference or be able to tell the difference. And so that's why we started vetting content creators and influencers based on what we've seen, what works, what doesn't. We have 25 fully vetted content creators out in the wild. What we will do if you have a big enough property to host us is bring in 10 to 15 of our creators at one time for a 3 to 4 night stay where they're just shooting content. And so you'll walk away from that retreat with like 500 pieces of content. Your archive is now built. We're posting in real time. You're also getting that influencer style content. So instead of having to try and work one off with an influencer, paying them 8 to 10 grand to come in, they're also now taking nights away from you, which would be revenue because they have to stay for free. And now you have to do that 10 times. So you're up 80 grand now trying to do that. You bring them all in at once, the rate gets drastically decreased. You only have to waste 4 nights instead of, 20 or more. And it just is such a good way to do it. And because our creators all know each other, and I framed it as a retreat, they're willing to lower their rates and come together and stay in rooms together too, because it's just a fun time for them also. So in select markets, on select occasions, we will do that. We just finished one with Portoro in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. There were 10 of us, and that was just incredible. And actually, Austin, who's your creator from AirDNA, was there. And he actually got to present to the creators from a brand perspective how they can use AirDNA to look up hosts and find business. So it was actually a really cool way to use your guys' tool for them. So it was awesome to have him there.
Oh, that's great. And Austin's been doing some amazing things on the content side. It's a lot of fun to have that sort of creativity sort of living in house too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and we've gone through and sort of how to do this all sort of soup to nuts, or at least get started. What do you think the end goal is for most hosts, sort of investors? Is it that you can sort of almost entirely move off the OTAs and have like a direct booking marketing strategy? Because in reality, we're all using Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking to drive bookings to our property. So in the end, if I'm sort of thinking about the long-term strategy, it's how do I build engagement in a way, build trust in a way where I don't have to rely on the OTAs?
Exactly. And I would say it's 100% a long-term strategy, because social media is not something you start tomorrow and you start seeing results in a week. Like, it actually does take a good year to get it off the ground and see repeatable results. Within that year time frame, you are going to see now and then things really start to work and you're going to really hone in on your strategy. But after a year time period, you will most likely be, 10% or less reliant on OTAs and 90% book direct. If you're doing this strategy like very correctly. And then I would also say you can still use the OTAs. Like, they spend so much money on marketing, you might as well, but make it a billboard effect. So like, put your Instagram handle in a creative way, because you can't just outright do that, in your listings, because guests are really savvy. They don't want to pay the Airbnb fees, but it's just such a good way to research and also find trusted things on Airbnb that it's like, yeah, I am going to look there because it's a great user experience. But if I can avoid the fees, why not? So I would say, they're going to spend $1 billion a quarter on marketing or whatever it really is. So leverage that, use it. But if your funnel is really strong in social media, leverage that as well, because you might as well avoid the fees and make some more money by booking direct.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then you've mentioned quite a few changes for Mount, and it seems like recently or over the past year or so. So what's next for you guys? Like, what are the big things you guys are looking into, and what you've either launched or getting ready to?
Yeah, I would say at a high level, Mount's focus up until like the last 6 months had really been in the short-term rental hosting side of things. And we even tried to build our own host tool. I think then we just realized your tech stack is already overcomplicated. You don't need an additional tech piece just to offer hidden gems. That's ridiculous. So by scaling that back and just allow you to offer hidden gems in whatever your tech stack already is quite helpful. And it's allowed us to go in and focus truly on finding the best hidden gems and really focusing on the travelers. And so I would say what you'll see from us in 2025 is a lot more of the second half of that, where it is building for the travelers, pushing them to find the hidden gems and also find your property, heavily leaning into content. If I could throw a retreat every month, I absolutely would. We're going abroad with our retreats too. We have one for Iceland coming up, and then also hopefully in the UK. So really, I think you can just see a lot more crazy things. And I would say whatever you haven't seen marketing wise, you'll probably see from us next year. So
Well, I'd highly suggest to listeners, if you're not following along with Mount on TikTok or Instagram, you're definitely missing out. So, Madi, thanks so much for joining. This has been a lot of fun. If people want to find you, Mount, any of your creators online, how do they do that?
LinkedIn is where I live. And if you DM me, I will absolutely answer. So find me on LinkedIn. And then, yeah, I would say TikTok, Instagram is the best place to find us. And yeah, if you do want to get into the content creation space, like, reach out to us because we're happy to help. We take on clients all the time. So yeah, whatever we can do to help, just let us know.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining.